This color correction is not going to plan. And now I have to fix this disaster. So this is where it all began. My client's hair history is she has been doing her own black box dye at home for the last few years. There's been no bleach, but there has been a little bit of everything when it comes to black box dye. She's done multiple brands. She's done blue black, brown black, and most recently she's done dark brown because she wants to go away from the black. Prior to our appointment, she did 3 rounds of color oops at home to remove as much color as possible. During a test strand, I never put bonders or reparative products into the test strand because I want to see the worst possible case scenario that will happen in a test strand. I also apply a little bit of warmth to it and I use a developer higher than I normally would because again, worst case scenario, what's going to happen? It also helps to account for the fact that there is going to be some warmth from the head and the body being applied to the bleach and foils that I'm trying to replicate in the test strand to again see the worst case scenario if we want to even move forward with doing a color correction. And of course, because we're doing a color correction and we're doing any kind of bleach service, I'm going to be using K18 today on her hair. It's very generously applied because we want to keep her hair as strong as possible. We also know that we are going to be fighting potential metallic salts and chemicals that can be found in box dyes that can sometimes be a little bit unpredictable when you mix them with bleach and peroxide. So this is all just hair insurance, to be honest. That's why I use K18. It makes the hair feel really good. It repairs it while it's being lifted because lifting is damaging, as we all know. So what I started with today was I did start with 20 volume and Blonde Me. Now I did not up my developer because the plan was to just take out foils as they need to be taken out. And I'm essentially doing a full bleach over and I'm avoiding the scalp initially because my plan is to later go onto the scalp with like a 7 volume in Blonde Me just to boost her up to the level she needs to be for the desired color that we have today. But right now we're doing 20 volume because there is layers upon layers of black box dye in there. Also, it should be mentioned how my client tends to apply her color at home. She says that not every single time will she apply black box dye everywhere around the scalp. Sometimes she'll go down to the ends, sometimes she'll do just the roots, but most of the time she'll do just the roots of around the face and the top because that's where her grays are. She wants to get them covered and she doesn't really care about what's underneath or in the back, which is something that is actually quite telling about my test strand placement. You can see that my test strand ended up being pretty good. It was like a beautiful level 7.5 lift. It had a little bit of banding in there, and we did notice that. We did talk about the potential of banding with her hair, especially because she has changed up formulas at home. If you are someone who does do box dye at home, there is no shame in that at all. That's actually a great thing for a lot of people to be able to save money and time, honestly, because no one wants to sit in the chair for 10 hours a day. But the thing is, try to keep it to the same color formulation and also as well the same brand if you can, because today we ran into some big issues because of the multiple formulas that were in her hair. They all had different undertones, they all had different staining power, they all reacted differently with their color oops and with the bleach, and it got really scary at a certain point. So if you do box color at home, please maintain with the same formula that you do everywhere to prevent stuff like what ended up happening today to you if you ever want to get it changed or removed or fixed. So my initial plan for today was to apply the lightener, almost roots to ends, about 1/2 inch from the roots all the way down to the ends with 20 volume, let it sit for as long as it's going to need to sit for the bleach to fully do its work, see how light we get, take it all out, and then do a bleach application on the roots. However, my client did mid-process tell me she's a little nervous about putting bleach on her roots. As she's never done any bleaching at home, she is very nervous about bleach work. She did find me through YouTube and she was like, I need to go to you to get my hair fixed. And I'm glad that she did because this process is quite complicated even though it looks pretty simple. Color corrections can be very complicated because they're oftentimes changed up as they go, right? So sometimes you just start a process and then the plan has to change partway through because things didn't go to plan. And that's what ended up happening today. So she was a little nervous about doing a scalp bleach, and I told her that there are two options that we can do with her scalp color. And if she decides she is uncomfortable with scalp bleach, when we get to the next step, we can do the other option. But, I did calm her nerves, and she was like, okay, like, I've just had a friend who had their scalp like bleached and she got like blisters and stuff. And I did let her know that I would be using a 7 volume, which is a low developer. It's very slow and it wouldn't need to sit on very long. And that I would also use Scalp Protect, which is a serum you could put on the scalp to help with itching or discomfort, anything like that. But of course, I always want to make sure my clients are comfortable with it. And if she ever felt any discomfort or pain, we would immediately wash it off. But again, this is something that we don't really want to risk. So the key to even application with this here is to have your fingers spaced out while you're gliding the lightener down the hair and to use even strokes. So you guys can see that I've been using a comb to bleach the hair, and I know a lot of you will probably be feeling that I shouldn't be doing that, but it helps to distribute the lightener through the hair evenly because that's so important for our even lift because we are working with an uneven color. About halfway through placing the back, I noticed that the roots were looking like they were pretty much done from everything close to the top, and this is what we got under the foil. This is not what was expected. It is far darker than the test strand had lifted. There is so much more banding, and it's not even banding. There's also just patches, splotches, and spots all over the hair, as you're going to see here. So I decided to, halfway through my application, stop and start pulling out any foils that needed to be pulled out when they were ready. But first I kind of wanted to check on some of them. So I lifted like the last two on that final side, check this one to see how it was processing, take a good look at what we actually have. And then I wanted to check one of the first ones that I had in there to see if the heat from her body and the extra time had done any difference. And it did a little bit. So we can let it sit for a little bit longer. The hair is still feeling fine, but I am realizing how quickly her hair is going to lift because these foils are getting warm. They're not getting hot, but they are getting warm. And I don't want to be taking too much of a risk. So this is after I've finished applying to the back and the sides, but I still have the top to apply. But I am pausing that process right now to scrape away all of the lightener from any of the foils that look like they're done to me and just let those pieces sit open air, cool down, and stop processing and stop it in its tracks. One thing I'm very glad that I did was how I applied my bleach didn't allow for extra lightener to be sitting in the foil with the hair, because sometimes that can cause just extra heat, extra swelling, and extra lifting that you don't necessarily want all the time. And with something unpredictable like this, I'm glad I only used the amount necessary to coat the hair and then wrap the hair in a foil rather than to also apply extra lightener on top of the hair while it's in the foil. Does that make any sense? I hope it does. Also, what was going through my head this entire time was, do I need to apply lightener to these really orange, red, and almost black spots in the hair a second time? Or is there a way around this? This is again how color corrections work. You have to stop and reconfigure and work on the fly and be okay with high pressure situations. So this was something that was just kind of exhausting to think about. Like, what is my next step going to be? Because I don't think this is going to work the way that it is right now, the way that the lightener is looking. I'm not super hopeful about it. And I'm thinking we might need to bleach again, but I don't want to push the hair too much. So with her desired goal, I've just got that in mind. She had multiple photos that she showed me. Some were lighter, some were darker. And I'm thinking maybe we can make those darker colors that she had imagined work. Because these red bands are not just in the ends, as you guys will see. They are also about 6 inches away from the top in the very front, because again, that's how she used to apply her color, to the front more often, and also to the left side of her head. She would always apply it there first. So that means it's sitting there longer than everywhere else. And on the left side of her head, it is significantly more banded and deeper banded too. So any of those red bands, I don't know which box dye formulation that was, if it's the Garnier, if it's the Clairol, if it's the blue black, if it's the brown black, I don't know. But she did use it at some point, probably about a year ago, which is how far it's grown down her hair. and that stuff stayed in there like crazy. And again, at this point, just squeegeeing out using my fingers all of the bleach that I can from the hair. And I'm just thinking to myself, what on earth am I going to do next? Am I going to apply bleach to these red areas right after I'm done applying the top? Or should I wait for the top to finish and then kind of reconfigure? Or is there a third thing that I should do? What do I do at this point? Do I apply the roots? I don't really know. I had to think about it for a couple minutes and I decided to just let step one do step one, wait it out till the top was fully done processing and we have finished step one all together and not move ahead until that's done. Then I got more comfortable with my process because, again, a little bit of panic can enter in sometimes and cause you to not really think clearly. So what I'm doing here is I'm applying a little bit of cool water to mist onto the lightest area of her hair and on her scalp. It feels nice. It stops the lightener from processing and it helps me to squeegee out a little extra product there to, again, just keep her hair as safe as possible while I still have to wait for the sides and the top to keep processing. Because, again, haven't even applied the top yet. My client also let me know that this hair for her feels uncomfortable and short. She is used to her hair being all the way down to her hips. Even though this is very long, thick, full hair, she is still used to it being longer than this, so she doesn't really want to do a cut. So we have to keep in mind that these ends, she wants to keep around if possible. So we could bleach them, but these ends might just fry off entirely, who really knows? Or we could try to figure out a formulation that works to disguise them and blend them in. So those were our two options. Also, she does not plan on coming back. She plans on maintaining her hair at home because that's what works best for her, as well as she's going to be moving to the island soon. So she does need something that she can maintain at home. So another reason why we decided to probably not do scalp bleach for her root color today. We're going to try to find a root color that works to blend into whatever we end up doing throughout the rest of this, because this is a mess. Look at all the patches. It doesn't even look like it makes sense. We've got yellow up at the top and then red in the middle and then yellow down below the shoulders and then red again below that. So this is a challenge. After she finished processing, I brought her to the sink and I washed her with the K18 Detox, and then I rinsed that out and I applied a generous amount of the K18 mask because that's going to go in and work on repairing her hair. Now, luckily, we had no breakage. We had nothing come out. We had very little even shedding. It was miraculous. I was very surprised because guess what? Those foils, the last few on the top, they got kind of hot. And it was freaking me out because I was like, what is in here? But luckily, the hair seemed totally fine. But again, the K18 mask is very detrimental to make sure that her hair stays fine. She's also been using K18 at home, and I think that has been integral to making sure that her hair stays intact while we do this. Now, here I'm using a towel just to kind of dry up the pieces of the darkest areas I can find in the hair to see what exactly this color would look like if we just dried it up, what level it truly is at. And it seems like our darkest areas are at like a very red 6, maybe 6.5 for some of them, but I think this darkest area, which is right up at the front, the left side where she applied her hair color the most and for the longest, that area has the worst banding of all. And I'm holding it up against this blue towel so I can truly see the color instead of it being against the white porcelain sink. As you guys can see, these ends are so stained and she does not want to cut them off. She wants to work with them if possible. A 4 to 5 inch length cut, cutting that amount off is just an absolute no to her. So we are going to have to work with the color and formulate something that can blend that in and disguise it while still maintaining the vibrancy that she wants in her final color. Now, what she has shown me was a few colors ranging from level 6 to level 8 that were all very, very vibrant coppers. So this is actually something that can be done if we do it right. It's just a challenge to do it right because we want to make sure that we blend in these hundreds of bands and spots and splotches together and that the color ends up looking vibrant and healthy and beautiful because, again, this is a color correction. It's not going to have a perfect result, but it will be pretty good, I think, especially because this is now the color we're going for that she showed me. And I think with this piece here on the left, with how dark that is, I think that we can attain that. So that was something, I had to kind of look back on and be like, well, what were your options? Well, that level 8 copper that you looked at initially, that's not happening. If you want to keep your length and you don't want to layer your hair, and we don't want to potentially like damage your hair by bleaching out these extra bands, then we have to go to a darker color. And she was okay with the reality of that. Here is what her hair looks like all brushed out. And again, very healthy. It felt totally fine, no breakage. And we are about to do our next step for color, which is try to fill in the yellow so that it matches these orange and red bands. So the way that we're going to do that today is we're going to use Shag Rug by Pulp Riot, and we're going to do kind of like a pre-tone, which I saw this on TikTok a while ago and I loved it, and I've been using it ever since for any of my vivids, is doing a pre-tone with like warm to hot water and a squirt of the color, and you shake it up in the bottle and apply it because it's got a really liquid consistency, but that color is just going to soak up immediately through the hair. And I like doing it this way as a pre-tone rather than using probably what would end up being 5 to 7 bottles of this product. I only ended up using 2 because she has so much hair and it's so long. But what I like about this is the water just allows the color to be a little bit more fluid and go through the hair, and the hair just sucks up any pigment as it goes through. And I squeeze my fingers through the hair to see if there is any kind of almost like a conditioner leftover residue, which I squeegee out, and then I can reapply that color mixture into the areas that need it. I am just spot application and massaging it in, combing it through as I work. And again, painstakingly long. This takes forever, but it's super effective and it adds a lot of vibrancy, and it did a ton of balancing because you guys are about to see the result of how this one ended up working. And again, very happy with the Shag Rug color and how it ended up pretty much masking a lot of things together. Again, the hair is wet, so of course it's going to look better than it really will look when it's dry, and it kind of shows more of its imperfections, but already a huge improvement on what we just had in the sink. So next is going to be all of my formulations and my applications, which I've put up onto the screen. You guys can watch those as I talk about something that I'm actually going to use as a tool moving forward for all of my color corrections. And this is called the 4 pillars of priority. The pillars are health, length, color, and maintenance. And these are all very important pillars to sort and organize for your clients. They're each going to have different priorities for each one, and you have to put them in order. So for this client, her length was the most important to her. She did not want to sacrifice any of her length today. Then the health of her hair was also extremely important. The color was important, but we had some flexibility on it. And the maintenance overall, she was okay with being a little bit more flexible, but I have a feeling that in all honesty, her maintenance was probably number 3 and then the color number 4, because we did flex on the color a little bit as we did these formulations, and as we applied them, we had to do multiple formulations, as you're going to see in a moment. But this helps to sort out what you're going to do for your process. It helps to sort out what the client desires the most out of their outcome. And if you have to make any kind of, if you have to do the real talk with your client, which sometimes has to happen. And another client of mine that I had a consult with, I recently had to just tell her, since the length and health is your number 1 priority and your maintenance is something that you're willing to compromise on, the color that you're currently wanting is not what we're able to do. We have to find another color. That's not with this client, but another client that I had a recent consult with. So again, use this as a tool if you can for your clients. The 4 pillars of priority, sort them from most important to least important: health, length, color, and maintenance. So after we did all of that, she feels like it's too late, and I agree, because we can see this band in the middle and in the ends, and that band is so red. And so what I'm deciding on, and she wasn't super comfortable with at first, but I'm glad we did it anyways, was we're going to have to add red to the formula, which she was like, I don't want to look fire engine red. I want to look copper orange. I want to look super vibrant copper. And I said, we still need some red because we need to put some red in these areas that don't have red to disguise in the areas that currently do have red, which is those bands. They have a red undertone. And her roots had a red undertone. So we applied a gloss, and this gloss was 5-7, 7-77, and 6-78 with 6 volume. It looks so scary in the sink, but honestly, that lightens up and brightens up so much when you rinse it out. So before I show you the final result, here is what we started with. This crazy amount of full hair, and it was all black. And this is what we ended up with. This was our final result. We blow dried it and straightened it, and it felt so good. It was so shiny and soft and silky. And overall, I'm so happy with the result, and so was she. So let's go over my 2 stars and a wish, which is my self-critiquing tool that I like to use for all color corrections. I use it for all of my apprentices and shadows, and it's a really great way to learn. Star number 1, I am so glad we didn't bleach it a second time. It wasn't necessary because she ended up wanting a deeper color anyways. That level lighter copper seemed to just be a little bit too light for her, and she wanted a little bit more depth, and I'm glad that we did that and added some red because look at how beautiful this color blends now. Star number 2, again, so beautiful and shiny, and all of the gold and orange in my formulations really put it all together. They picked it all up and they stayed in the hair, which was so important to how the finished result looks, is that the hair doesn't spit out all of that color. My wish, I wish I added some 6-78 to the first round of toner anyways. I feel like that would have helped to ease her into it. And sometimes I just do a little bit of over communicating, and I kind of check with the client a little bit too much, like, are you okay with this? Are you okay with that? Sometimes I should just follow my gut and just apply it, see how it goes. But again, I didn't want to freak out my client. So, that's okay for that to be the wish. But overall, I'm so happy with this result. It is so shiny and friggin' beautiful. She looks like a Highland princess, and she is ready to go home and maintain her roots with the formulas I gave to her so that she can have her waist length copper red hair. And, the hair of her dreams. What do you guys think of this video? Did you like the final result? Did you learn anything from it? And did you also have a heart attack halfway through? Because I certainly did. Anyways, remember to like and subscribe and follow along for more videos. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.